Om. Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, 21st shloka, 20th shloka. Sri Krishna is explaining to Arjuna how this soul, the indwelling Atman, is eternal, immortal, and how only the body perishes and the mind perishes. So he says that anyone who thinks that the soul is killed or the soul can kill does not know about the soul. He says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvatoyam puranah na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So I am this self, kadachit, ever, na jayate, is not born, va mriyate, or does not die, va, or na bhutva, it does not come into existence, bhuyah, or again bhavita, comes into being, na. So the self is not born, it does not die, it does not come into existence, or it does not take birth again. Or again it says, bhutva, you can read like this also, bhutva, having come into existence, bhuyah, again, na bhavita, means again it does not stop being existing. So the self is always existing, that is the idea. It does not come into existence and it did not die. So it's always existing. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, always existing. Shashvatah. Shashvatah means? How does that meaning come? Shashvatah. Shashvata, Shva means tomorrow. That which will always remain tomorrow. That is the meaning of the word Shashvata. That which will always remain tomorrow. That's the literal meaning. Shashvatah. Shva means tomorrow. So, Shashvatah means changeless. Puranah means always existing. This self, sharire, in the body, hanyamane, killed, na hanyate, is not killed. So this self which is always existing is not killed in the body. Even if the body is killed, the self is not killed. So anything, or particularly any jiva, a living being, has got 6 qualities of modification. There is a dictionary of Vedic words called Nirukta. In that, the last Nirukta was written by a rishi called Yaska. In that, he talks about 6 stages of a living being. And they are called Shad Vikara. Shad means 6, Vikara means modifications. What are they? Jayate. First, the particular living being is born. And Asti, that living being comes into existence. So once that living being is born, then afterwards it comes into existence. Then Vardhate, it grows. Then it Viparinamate, there is transformation in the body of the living being. Then Apakshiyate, there is a decay. And Nashyati, it dies. So these are the 6 modifications of any living being. First it is born, then it comes into existence, then it grows, then there is transformation. There are different kinds of transformations take place, and there is decay and death. So here in this shloka, in the 20th shloka, Sri Krishna says that self or Atman has none of these qualities of modifications. None of these modifications take place in the self. Why? Because self is not the body, self is not the mind, self is not something which comes into existence. That which does not come into existence cannot go away also. That which does not take birth cannot die also. So that is the idea. So that Arjuna is being told, is being taught that one is not the body. One is not that for which one should mourn or sorrow for, because one is not the body or the mind. Our true nature is beyond body, mind, and the other three koshas. So first is Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha, etc. So our true nature is beyond all these sheets of ignorance. So that is what Sri Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Then he says in the 21st shloka, Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam katham sa purushah partha kam ghatayati hantikam. O Partha, referring to Arjuna being the son of Pritha, that is Kunti. O Partha, yaha, who, enam, this self, avinashinam, indestructible, nityam, changeless, ajam, unborn, avyayam, immutable or without parts, Veda knows, saha, that Purushaha, person. So Purusha has been wrongly translated by many to mean a man, but Purusha means one who lives in Puri. That means one who lives in body. So embodied, that is the literal meaning of the word Purusha. It can mean both male, female or a transgender. There is no gender problem with Purusha. So Purusha, a person who knows this indestructible, changeless, unborn, immutable Atman, Katham, Kam Hanti, how, Katham, how, Kam, whom, Hanti, kills, Kam, whom, Ghatayati, makes to kill. So, a person who knows that one's Atman, one's true nature, is indestructible, changeless, without birth and immutable, how is that person to kill another person or make somebody else kill another person? So it is not possible. So how is it to kill? So he says, see, I am not asking you to kill anybody. So Arjuna, you cannot kill anybody. So Arjuna's problem is that he is diffident or he is afraid or he is hesitant to kill his kith and kin. So Sri Krishna is saying that you cannot kill anyone. And also, how is it that I can make someone kill somebody? That is also not possible. So Krishna himself is not making anyone kill anybody. That is the idea here. Because a person is not just the body. Person is Atman, and Atman is beyond death, beyond birth, beyond any modifications. So avinashinam, indestructible. It does not die. Nityam, changeless. It does not change. Ajam, so only people who think themselves to be body will buy all dyes and dye with the dye, hair dye. And Nityam, it is changeless. Ajam, unborn. Avyayam, immutable, without any parts. So all these things we don't understand. We general people don't understand. So that is why you have to suffer. As long as you think yourself as to be the body and mind, you will suffer. And that is why Arjuna is suffering. Because he is seeing everyone as body and mind, including himself, including Sri Krishna, Lord himself. So here Sri Krishna tells that you see, you are neither the body, you are not the mind. Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya, navani grihnati naroparani, tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani, anyani sanyati navani dehi. Now again Sri Krishna gives an example, how you are not the body or the mind. So the problem is, most of you have read this or most of you have heard this many times, but you don't think that it is truth, so you never even care to practice it in your life. So that is why you are all suffering. Even till date you are suffering. Somebody is very old, somebody is young, somebody is middle aged, but everyone is suffering. Why? Because you don't think these things can be applied in your life. Whereas if someone were to give you an example of how some financial instrument will give you some money, immediately you will rush and you will take the brochure of that mutual fund or whatever, and you will invest and you will take money, because you are so much concerned about your body. You are so much running after your body, which is not going to give you eternal satisfaction, but still that is what you run after. So that is why Sri Krishna is trying to explain this thing in various examples, various illustrations, and in different words. Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya. So just like Naraha, a person, yatha vasansi jirnani vasansi vihaya. Jirnani means worn out. Vasansi, clothes, vihaya, discarding, casting off. Aparani, others, navani, new, grihnati, takes. So just like a person casts off or throws off used clothes and puts on new clothes, other new clothes, tatha, similarly, dehi, a person who has taken a body, jirnani sharirani vihaya, gives up vihaya, worn out bodies, anyani, and takes up new, other new, sanyati, enters. So just like a person who has got clothes takes new clothes instead of old clothes and throws away or discards or disposes the old clothes, similarly, what does the person do? When the body becomes old, that person discards the body and takes a new body. New body. For what? For exhausting one's karma phala. So you have done so many things, you are continuing to do so many things, and those things will create effects. So every action has its effect, and those effects will be created. And when those effects are created, then what will happen? Then you will have to exhaust those effects. Good actions create good effects, evil actions create evil effects. So you will have to exhaust them, and for that you need a body. And this cycle of creating of effects and exhausting them will go on till you have this idea of doership and enjoyership. So in the Upanishads there is an example of leech. What does a leech do? A leech walks like this. It keeps its head on the ground, and its tail has an antenna. Many people think that head has an antenna. Head is on the ground and the tail has an antenna, and it will search like that. And it will then smell, or it will search and then keep the tail down and remove its head and again go like that. So only when it keeps one tail down, it will lift its head, and only when it keeps its head down, it will lift its tail. It will not lift both together. So first it will take a foothold, grasp, and then leave the another grasp. So that is called, leech is called in Sanskrit Jalauka. So Jalaukavat means like a leech. So a person who is entering a new body will leave the old body and enter the new body. But people are mortally afraid of thinking of death. So that is why you have to suffer again. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. So this is also another verse which is often quoted from the Bhagavad Gita. This is the 23rd verse of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So what does Sri Krishna say here? He says, Nainam chindanti shastrani. That shastrani enam na chindanti. Weapons cannot, this means self, it cannot cut. Pavakah, fire, enam na dahati. The fire cannot burn this. Apah, water, enam na kledayanti. Cannot wet this. Cha marutah, and maruta, wind, na shoshayati, cannot dry this. So weapons cannot cut, fire cannot burn, water cannot wet, and wind cannot dry. What? The self. But the body it will do. So because all of you are convinced thoroughly that you are the body and only the body, so that is why most people's life is a very miserable life. Because you, whenever somebody comes and is about to go, about to scold you, about to insult you, immediately you start getting disturbed. Even before that insult actually happens. About to get some suffering, so in terms of bodily suffering, you get disturbed. Even before that suffering actually happens. Why? Because of the anticipation, expectation that you will suffer. Why? Because you are convinced that I will suffer if the heat increases, if the cold increases, if I don't get food for 2 times or 1 time, or if I don't get water, if somebody does not give me AC, or if I don't get good something, I will suffer. This is your conviction. And when that conviction is there, then even before such a thing happens, you start suffering. The very expectation of suffering of body and mind will cause further suffering. And that is what here Sri Krishna is telling. So Swamiji recounts an incident when Alexander had gone to a place and he saw that a person was very wise, a sage, and he wanted that sage to go with him to his kingdom. And he asked the sage, please come with me. And the sage said, no, I will not. So he said, you don't know, I am the emperor, so I can kill you. So the sage started laughing. He said, you cannot kill me, you can only kill the body. But that is the kind of wisdom that sage had. But what is our wisdom? Most people think that you can be killed. I can be killed. I will kill that person. I will slap that person. I will create problem for that person. I will make that person's life hell. All this is what is going on in the head. So whether the other person's life will become hell or not, your life definitely will become hell. So this is what we have to understand when we study this shloka, that our true nature is much above than this mundane world, than this mundane existence. It is much above than the existence of body and mind. And that is what again he says in the 24th shloka, Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo ashoshya evacha nityah sarvagatah sthanuhu achaloyam sanatanah. So I am this self is achedya. It cannot be cut. What he has told in the previous shloka he is telling in a different manner. So if weapons cannot cut, so self cannot be cut. I am adahyah. It cannot be burnt. Akledyah. It cannot be wetted. And ashoshya, it cannot be dried. Why? Because this I am Atma, this self, Nitya is changeless, Sarvagatah, all pervading, Sthanuhu, unmoving, Achalah, immovable, and Sanatana, it is eternal. So it is not that something is happening to the self when one gets old, or something is happening to the self when one becomes adolescent or enters into youthhood. So nothing is happening. Similarly, when someone falls ill, only the body is falling ill. The self has got nothing to do with that. Sarvagatah. Similarly, it is all pervading. It is not that just that like the body, it is stationed or located in a particular place. Self is all pervading. Sthanuhu. It is all pervading, but it is not moving. It is unmoving. How? Because there is nothing other than self. There is nothing other than Brahman. Only when there is something other than Brahman, then there will be boundary and there will be movement. But where will the self move to? There is nothing. And Achalaha, it is immovable. It is Sanatana. It is eternal. So this is the true nature of self. Then he says, Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam na anushochitum arhasi. So in the 11th shloka, Sri Krishna had said that, you see, you are talking like a wise person, but gatasun agatasuncha na anusochanti panditaha. The wise people do not sorrow, do not mourn for people who are dead or people who are living. That is what Sri Krishna said. Now he is proving why it is that you should not sorrow for people. That is what I am, this self, avyaktaha, it is unmanifested. So whatever we see is all unreal. I am, this self is achintya, unthinkable. I am, this self is avikarya, unchangeable. So you see a mirage when you travel on the road in the afternoon. You see that there is some water on the tar road, but there is no water. You go near, there is no water. It is a mirage. It is an illusion. So similarly, you see lots of illusions in this world. Similarly, this world itself is an illusion. So in that world, which is a big illusion, you see smaller illusions like that. But this world itself, this universe itself is a big illusion. And so, whatever you think is unreal. Whatever you see is unreal. If it can be seen, it is unreal. If it can be thought, it is unreal. Why? Because thought changes. Whatever you see, it changes. If your eyesight goes away, you cannot see. If your eyes are working, but your brain, optic center in your brain is not working, you cannot see. Even if everything is working and your mind is not there, you might see, but you will not remember. Your attention will not be there. So all this, whatever is seen, manifest universe is all unreal and unthinkable, because this Atman cannot be thought. Atman is real. If it can be thought, it will become unreal. And if it can be changed, it will become unreal. So Atman is unchangeable also. Whatever can be changed is unreal and not the Atman. Whatever can be seen or perceived, whatever can be heard, seen, touched, etc., using our five senses or also through mind, sixth sense, are all unreal. So what is the self? It is real. And what is the character of self? It is unmanifested. It cannot be perceived through the senses and the mind. And it is unthinkable. It cannot be thought of. And it is unchangeable. It cannot be changed. Uchyate. It is said about the self. Tasmat, therefore, evam, thus, enam viditva, knowing this, that the self is unchangeable, unmanifested, imperceivable, unthinkable. Knowing this, what should one do? Anusochitum na arhasi. One should not mourn for the self. Because there can be nothing which can be done with the self. You cannot kill the self. You cannot talk to the self. You cannot interact with the self. There is no subject-object relationship with the self. Why? Because the self is the only reality. This body and all other things are all unreal. So once you know this, then once you understand this, then you should not sorrow for anything. So people sorrow all the time. If the mobile phone does not work, you are in sorrow. Or in the mobile phone, if your Google Mail app does not work, you are in terrible sorrow. So why? Because you think yourself to be the Gmail app or the Android phone, whatever the case may be. Atha chainam nitya jatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabaho nainam sochitum arhasi. And even if you think, even if you don't understand that the self is unmanifested, even if you don't understand that the self has no birth and no death and none of the 6 modifications, even if you think, Sri Krishna tells to Arjuna, like most people, even if you think that enam, this self, nitya jatam, is constantly born, nityam mritam, and constantly dies. Manyase, even if you think like that, tathapi, even then, mahabaho, mighty armed, tvam enam shochitum na arhasi. So you should understand that the self is real. and self does not take birth, does not die, and there is no change, no parts, etc. You should understand this. But even for the sake of argument, suppose you think that the self is temporary, that the self takes birth and dies all the time, constantly is taking birth and constantly dying. Even if you think like that, then also you should not have any sorrow, because after all, the self which has taken birth will die. So this is the argument of people who were materialists. Even now there are so many people who belong to this philosophy. Charuvaka. Charu means beautiful, Vak means speech. So one who have beautiful speech. What do they tell? They say, Yavat jivet sukham jivet. As long as you will live, live happily. Rinam kritva, incurring debt, ghritam pivet. Drink ghee. So now of course you drink something else, incurring MasterCard or Visa card or whatever card that is. So same thing. And why? Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutah. Where is the coming back or returning of the body which is turned into ashes? So Krishna is saying, for the sake of argument, that even if you were to take this stand, even then, once you are going to die, then that is the end. So why are you worrying about it? Why are you sorrowing? Why are you mourning for that? Then the same argument he extends. He says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha, tasmad apariharyerthe, na tvam shochitum arhasi. So, Jatasya, of that person who is born, mrityuhu dhruvam, death is certain. Even if you believe that the body is impermanent, Atman is true, Atman is real, even then this is true. That anybody who has taken birth, for that person, death is certain. That is the only certain thing in one's life. Mritasya cha janma dhruvam. And also for a person who has died, birth is also certain. Tasmat, therefore, apariharye arthe, in arthe, in a subject or in a matter which is apariharye, which is unavoidable, tvam shochitum na arhasi. One should not grieve, one should not sorrow. Why? Because a person who is born will die, and a person who is died will again be born, unless that person has got moksha, unless that person has liberation. What is liberation? To get rid of all desires is liberation. To get rid of all desires is liberation. To not have the sense of doership and enjoyership is liberation. So unless a person has got that, a person cannot be free after one's death. So that person will have to take birth again. So this is something which is unavoidable. So therefore you should not grieve. Therefore you should not think of preserving the body of your kith and kin. Because you see, they have their karma phala. They have the effects of their karma. Means the actions they have done. Karma does not mean fate or fortune or something. Karma means whatever you do, you will have to face the results of that action. As long as you have the idea that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. So that karma phala they have, and because of that they will take birth. Irrespective of what you do or not do, they will take birth. So why are you bothering about that? And anybody who has taken birth will die. So why are you bothering about that? This is the logic Sri Krishna gives to Arjuna. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.